Hello, welcome to another video on this channel in which we're going to talk about filters. So just recently I got a new filter kit, which is this one here, the Kase KW Revolution Filter Kit, which is a set of round magnetic filters. And yeah, if you follow this channel, you know that I've been using filters for, I think in total more than 10 years, and for the last 5 years I've been using Kase filters, and most of the time those rectangular and square filters. So recently I've been using the K9 kit, which is the third one I got from Kase. So I started with the K6, then the K8 and the K9, which also features a magnetic polarizer and allowed me to use those rectangular GND filters. But just over the last 1 or 2 years I noticed that I don't use GND filters that often anymore. So since I got the Canon R5, the dynamic range is actually pretty good, and also with many other modern cameras. And for many scenes I don't use GND filters. And if I need more dynamic range, mostly it's just easier to just activate bracketing and capture a sequence of different exposures. And also you see this filter kit, it's pretty big. So compared to this one, it's heavier, it's bigger. So I was thinking about getting something more compact, and this is what the KW Revolution Kit is all about. And I now want to show you what's in the kit, so with what filters it comes. Also want to show you how it performs. So we do some pixel peeping, looking at some photos and see if there's any problems with sharpness or some white balance effects. This is something you should always check with filters. And then I also have an in the field portion for the video where I want to show you how I use those filters. So we're gonna head out and try to take some photos. But first, also this one, I'm an ambassador for Kase, so they sent me this one to test specifically. So I didn't buy it, so just as a disclaimer, getting this out of the way. But as usual, expect an honest review. Also, since we do pixel peeping, you can see for yourself how those perform. So first, what's in the kit? So actually, this little pouch comes with the kit, and it's nice to use at the belt. This is how I usually use filters. Put it on the belt, and then I can, in the field, just pull out the filters I need. Then if you open the pouch, you see there are actually, I'm not sure if you see it, but I'll show you. There are 4 filters, and those filters are color-coded. So if you have this at the belt and look down, you always see the colors of the different filters, and you'll always know which filter you get if you pull one out. For example, the silver one here, that's the polarizer. And this one, I have already prepared this here. This is my big lens, and I put an adapter ring in front, a magnetic one from Kase. And this would then just snap in. And then I can look into the pouch and see, oh, maybe I also need an ND filter, for example, a 3-stop. Then I get out the blue one here, would also snap it in front of the lens. Now I would have a polarizer and an ND effect combined. But there are more filters in it. There's also an ND64 filter, so if you need even longer exposures, and this one has a yellow coating. And then if you want to turn day into night, so to say, you get the red one, the ND1000, and this allows you to take long exposures up to 30 or maybe a minute, even during day. So those 4 filters, as you see, all color-coded, are in this pouch, as well as a magnetic filter cap, which you can put just in front of your filters or just in front of the adapter ring when you're not using filters and you carry around your gear. So all this is included, but even a bit more, because I already said I have an adapter ring here. So it comes with an adapter ring, which you can screw in front of the lens. It also comes with a very thin, tiny adapter ring, which goes to the inside of this screw-in portion of the lens. And there are a few tools which you can use, basically screwing this one in and also out again. So I didn't do this because I got a diameter of filters which is larger than my lens, so I actually can't use those adapters, but more on that in a second. There's another tool here, this one, which you can also use if this doesn't work for you. So with it, you can have those tiny profile filters or adapter rings in the lens and can still use your normal lens hood if you don't want to use the magnetic one. Yeah, then there's also a filter cloth and here a little handle for the back. But quickly want to talk about the diameter I got. So I have a 15-35mm lens, which is very wide, and it has an 82 millimeters front. But if I had gotten the Kase filters in that size, I would have likely gotten vignetting. So on the Kase side, they have a little table where it says what are the recommended filters for the different lenses. And for this lens, the 15-35 lens from Canon, it's actually 95 millimeters. And with 95 millimeters, I can, let me first get off a few. Also, you see the magnets are very strong. So you don't have to worry if you use those filters that they might fall off. They won't. So even for the filter cap, the magnets are very strong. But what I want to show you is, for example, if I use two filters, so this is the profile those filters would have. So they are thin, but they protrude a bit. And if I get the 95 in front of the 82 lens, so the 15-35 lens, I don't get any vignetting. And that's perfect because two filters is a use case I run into quite a bit. So I would have the polarizer and then maybe one of the ND filters. This is how I typically use this kit. And I don't want to get any vignetting. And that's why I got the 95 instead of the 82. With the 95, you need to get some extra adapters. So those don't come with the filter kit. With the filter kit, you get the adapter fitting the diameter you get. So this one here is 95 and it doesn't fit in front of my 82 millimeter front element. That's why I got this step-up ring. So you get those also from Kase. This one is an 82-95 and here on this one I have a 77-95. The good thing is also if you have different lenses with different diameters, you just get different step-up rings and then you can use the filter kit on all your lenses, which is pretty nice because you save a bit money. Those filters are not cheap, so the kit costs 400 euros, but if you get high quality filters and you get 4 of them, I think that's a justifiable price. Then the adapters, I think, let me check, I think are also like 29.90, so 30 euros. So a little added expense, but yeah, it's really making things very easy because you can just adapt the filters to your different lenses. Those just screw into the front element and then you can also leave them in if you want and just put the magnetic cap in front. So yeah, that's the filter kit, and that's also the reason why I chose the bigger ones, the 95, and you should really check the table on the Kase homepage to make sure you get the right ones for your lenses, because maybe for your lens you don't need the very big ones, maybe a smaller diameter is enough, but yeah, make sure to get big enough filters to avoid vignetting. Okay, so that being said, just want to mention those filters also use the Wolverine glass, which I also had on my rectangular filters. It's very high quality glass. I already tested sharpness with those filters, didn't find any problems, but I also now did a test with those and we want to do some pixel peeping now and check, yeah, if there's any problem with sharpness. So I was testing with this lens here at 500 millimeters and then putting 1, 2 and even 3 filters in front of it, and we can now compare and see if there's any effect caused by the filters. Ideally there should be none, because yeah, you want to make sure if you put filters in front of an expensive lens that the image quality stays intact. That's the problem if you buy cheap filters. You usually buy twice, because as soon as you look at the photos you often notice that actually even the sharpness gets worse. So typically, yeah, white balance is off, but you could say, yeah, I can fix this in RAW, but the sharpness you lose you won't get back. So make sure to get good filters, and the Kase filters I had before were very good, and yeah, I would assume since they use the same glass, they should also be fine, but we're gonna look at the images now and you can see for yourself. So for this test, I again did this setup I also used for my lens test, so 2 videos ago, and I am shooting here at 500 millimeters, as I said, so really zooming in close. And basically this here, this is my moment battery on the cobalt light, is the target on which we're going to zoom in now and do some pixel peeping. And you see also here 1/50th of a second, 1/30th. So this one here is without any filter, and this one here, this is with the polarizer attached, and you see that the polarizer swallows roughly 1 stop of light. So now let's zoom in and have a close look. So first of all, you see that here the polarizing effect, it takes away a bit of the glare we have here, so the reflections. But what it doesn't take away is any of the sharpness. So that's perfect. So if we look here at those tiny texts here, everything looks equally sharp on both sides. So this means having just one filter of the KW Revolution Kit in front of the lens doesn't impair sharpness one bit here. So that's perfect. But now let's see if we add another one. So for this test, I also added the 3-stop ND filter, and you see here 0.5 seconds is now the time I'm using. So we went from 1/50th of a second to 0.5 seconds here. And again, even with 2 filters, I can't see any change in sharpness. And also we can also check here, if we look at those gray areas, is there any color cast? So I don't see much of it. It just feels a little bit warmer here, but this was mostly due to using the polarizer, which takes away some of the reflections. So basically the blue sky above. So let's look down here. Yeah, so it feels a touch warmer, but yeah, it's just a minor color cast. And I wouldn't even say it's a color cast because, as I said, I think this is mostly due to the polarizing effect, taking away the reflection of the blue sky. Also here in the background, you see a touch warmer with 2 filters in front. Now for the final test, we also want to check with the ND64. Now you see up here we're at 4 seconds now, and again, sharpness is perfect. And if you remember, I said I wanted to put 3 filters in front of the lens. So now we have the polarizer, the ND64. So what's the third one? What I also got is a UV filter from Kase, and I will have a separate video on those. And I also stacked this one in front of the lens. So I have 3 filters here, the UV filter, polarizer, and the ND64. And yeah, sharpness looks still very good. Also, the white balance looks nearly the same still. So as I said, just as we saw before, it's getting a bit warmer, but that's mostly due to the polarizing effect here. So what we see with this test, sharpness of the filter is very good. You basically don't see any degradation, at least I don't see it. Maybe here with 3 filters, if you look very close, you could say it's a touch, a tiny bit softer, but yeah, that's splitting hairs here. Also, white balance is maintained, so quality-wise, those filters are as good as it gets, in my opinion, and yeah, I feel comfortable using them. Now we also want to check the ND1000. And for the ND1000, I shot a real landscape photo. So you see here, I turned 1/45th of a second into 30 seconds. And you see here how the clouds are now moving. What you also see is that, let's just look at this portion of the sky here. There's no color cast introduced by the filters. So with the Lee Big Stepper I was using a few years ago, I usually had a bluish color cast. Here I don't see any color cast, so that's perfect. The light has changed a bit between the 2 photos, but you see with the different colors, there's not much of a change between those. Now let's also check the sharpness. So I'll just zoom in down here on those trees, and yeah, again, using the ND1000 doesn't cause any problems here. So that's pretty nice. Sharpness is well maintained as with the other filters. So welcome to the practical part of this video. And yeah, since I've lately no longer been using filters that much for my scenic landscapes, so as I said in the beginning, I kind of don't use GND filters that often anymore because the capabilities of modern cameras, and also the polarizer or ND filters for normal landscape, wide scenic landscape. I find myself not using them that often, but every time I have some water or some foliage in the picture, I still like to use filters, and that's the perfect use case for the Revolution Kit. And that's also why I've come now to a forest and a river. And yeah, I want to now show you how to use, or how I use, the different filters of the kit, why I would use them. I'm gonna look at some results, but first I have to find some composition. So I haven't been here, so I just did some browsing on Google, just figuring out a place where I could test the filters, where I could find some subjects. Also, it's beginning to become colorful. Autumn is approaching, so hopefully I find some nice colors. And yeah, that's what I'm gonna do now, and then I'm gonna show you which filters I use. Okay, so I already found the first scene here. This beautiful little river leading through beautiful foliage. And the first thing I usually do when I photograph such scenes is I put on the pouch. So before it was the filter pouch for the GND filters, a little bigger one. Now the Revolution Kit comes with a small pouch which I can directly attach to my belt here, and that's essential because then I can change the filters easily, keep them dry. So this is really handy. And first thing, I want to attach the adapter, because since I'm using the big ones, the 96mm adapters, I usually don't keep them on the lens all the time, because in my camera bag, this would have some kind of churn on the lens, on the front element. So I just put them on when I need them. But that usually takes not very long, so I just screw this one in, and now for the complete shoot I keep it on. And yeah, if I want to go to another location and just want to protect the lens, I just use this magnetic filter cap. So that's it during the shoot. But now that I'm prepared here, I actually already looked through the camera to just see and scout a bit, but the scene here looks completely different when looking through a polarizer. That's why I also do the scouting now, still not with a tripod, but just with a camera after attaching a polarizer. So I get out the silver filter here, which I know is the polarizer, and I just snap it in now. So that's the nice thing, I can snap it in, the magnets work very well. And now I detach the camera from the tripod, and I'll now, basically, I also have to be careful here, it's slippery. Yeah, walk around a bit in this perimeter and also turn the polarizer to see how the scene looks, because it will actually change the scene quite a bit. So having more or less reflections on the water. Without the polarizer, those reflections can get very distracting, because we have a gray sky overhead, and if this reflects in the water, it's just very bright and not really appealing. So with a polarizer, I can try to remove this reflection. And once I set up the composition, I'll show you the effect. But now I have to first fine-tune before I move in the tripod. Okay, I've now honed in on my first composition, and it looks pretty great here with the little river flowing around those moss-covered rocks and then having some leaves on it, so some nice color. We have orange, we have green, in the background we have yellow, so it's beautiful. But I now want to show you what a dramatic difference it can make to use a polarizer or to not use a polarizer. So let me quickly switch to the camera, or let's maybe take two photos. So I will take one photo without the polarizer and one with the polarizer, and then show you the comparison side by side. Now you saw that with the polarizer the colors pop a bit more because the reflection is removed, and you saw most of the effect in the river, especially there in the background, where without the polarizer it's pretty bright, and with the polarizer you just see where the actual water is flowing and not the reflection of the sky. So often the truth lies somewhere in between, so not turning the polarizer to the maximum, but maybe just half polarize the image. So it's always important to experiment and also take a photo without the polarizer in addition to using the polarizer, just to have both photos and maybe later decide you actually like the photo without the polarizer more. This also happens. Or you can combine both in post, so just loading them into layers in Photoshop and then masking out the parts where you like the polarization effect and leave the others. For example, also what you have to be aware of, polarizer makes the exposure times a little longer, so it maybe swallows half a stop or a stop of light. So today it's already pretty dark, and with the polarizer I already get into the range of 3 seconds when I shoot at f9.5, so that's perfect for water. So for this scene here I don't even need an ND filter if I use a polarizer, because it also darkens the scene a bit. So this is also something where a polarizer comes in quite handy. It's not just polarizing, it's also having a little ND effect on the scene. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do, I also take a vertical frame, so just spicing up the compositions a bit, because I feel for the horizontal I have a little bit too much of this rock here on the side. So I'm not sure how it will look on the big screen. So on the small screen as often looks good, but then if you blow up the photo onto a big monitor, you sometimes see there's too much negative space. So I now vary the composition a bit and then move on and try to find another view. So I've now come out of the woods and found this beautiful lake here, and I'm actually taking some details, because if you look here, the water's pretty dark and there's some leaves swirling around in it very slowly. So what I'm gonna do, or what I'm already doing, I got out the big lens and I'm zooming in on some of those leaves and trying to make some detail photos. I'm not sure how they're gonna turn out, but it's another great use of the polarizer. So I will show you again a before and after, without and with the polarizer. So without the polarizer, you see there's the gray sky reflected here in the water. And that's a bit distracting. If I want to really isolate those leaves, I use a polarizer, then the water will become nearly black and the leaves will really pop. So that's pretty nice. And also, if you decide to buy this Revolution Kit, make sure to buy it in a large enough diameter. For example, I said I'm using the 96 millimeters, which fits to both my wide angle lens without vignetting, and also it fits to the tele lens. So the wide angle has a 82 millimeter ring at the front, this one's 77, and I got an adapter for both. So I have the filters which fit to basically all my lenses that are 82 or less. And that's important. Get one that's big enough to allow you to shoot wide angle scenes without vignetting, and then also get some adapters to use the filters on your other lenses. Okay, I'm now gonna take some photos and hopefully there's anything good. Okay, I just found my favorite scene of the day so far. So this little pond with beautiful orange leaves, and there's nearly no disturbance in the water. So I can really play around with all kinds of exposures, also doing a little longer ones, and also do even focus stacking, because there's no movement at all. And that's a nice intimate scene. And you see the pond is not that deep, so you have just a hint of detail also in the background. But what you also see again, there's the sky reflected here, which is very bright and gray. And the polarizer is again the tool of choice here to control this reflection. So for scenes like this, for river, woodland photography, seascapes, I think the polarizer is the most important filter. And directly afterwards usually comes the ND filter, so the 0.9. But today, as it's pretty dark, I haven't yet found a scene where I actually need it. So as I said in the beginning, when I was shooting the water, I already had like 3-second exposure times just by using the polarizer and being at ISO 100 and f9.5. But if you, for example, shoot seascapes where you don't have foliage above, so it's usually a bit brighter, then you would combine the polarizer and an ND filter. And the Kase kit here comes with 3 different strengths. So you have the 0.9 3-stop, which you then put just in front of the polarizer. Then you have ND64 or ND1000. So ND1000, it's the filter I use the least, but if I do, it's usually during day when I want to capture some nice cloud movement, or when I'm in the city for architecture photography. Did this in London, where I want to have the people vanish from the frame or appear like ghosts. So those are the use cases. So nothing I'm gonna shoot today, but still I'm gonna continue working this scene here, trying to identify some nice assortments assortments of leaves here, and then also show you the photo. Okay, and with that we're at the end of the video, so I hope you liked it. Before I close, I want to show you a final image which we see here, another use case where you would use the polarizer. Because I said in the beginning, so most of the time when I shoot wide scenic landscapes, I don't find myself using filters that often. That's mostly because if I have too much sky, the polarization effect is usually quite uneven and it doesn't look so good in the sky. But if you have a photo like this with a lot of clouds, polarizer again can be very helpful, because you see here on the left side the dark patches of blue. Polarizer helped me to darken this side quite a bit, which balances the photo, because on the other side I have quite dark clouds. So this is where you should or could use a polarizer. So if you have good cover of clouds with just a bit of blue sky or sky shining through, then polarizer can be quite helpful. And also here I have a lot of foliage, and again this is the best use case for the polarizer, bringing out the colors. So yeah, I hope you liked the video. If so, leave a thumbs up. Also, in the description I will leave links to the German Kase shop, to the filter kit. There will also be a discount code which will be active for a limited time, so I don't yet know how long, but the discount code will also be in the description, so you can just try it out. So if it's still active, you'll know. And yeah, that's it with the video. See you in the next one. Bye.